Mr. Burrows. You find yourself engulfed in darkness, a cold darkness wrapping around you. Can you give me a 1d4, Mr. Burrows?
1d4, here goes nothing. That is a 2.
The knife that slid into your throat didn't go into the windpipe, didn't slice into the artery, but has carved a significant line across your collarbone and delved deep into the muscle. When you feel this coldness wrap around your body, you feel there, that line, that weakness, that pressure. The cold seems to be reaching in to the bottom left part of your neck, just above the collarbone, your shoulder almost going numb. Could you remove 2 hit points, please, Mr. Burrows?
Yes, indeed. That brings me down to 5 out of 9 hit points.
I'm going to ask you, Mr. Burrows, as you're lying, consumed in this water, regulating your body, your fingers, your feet, seeing what's moving, what's not, seeing where your breath is. Can you take a breath? I'm going to ask you in this moment to give me a luck roll.
Ooh, fingers crossed here. He actually has a quite staggering 66 luck. So let's see if that can keep him breathing. We are in luck. That is a 28 under 66.
That luck wasn't for breath, Burrows. That was to see how you hit the water, where you hit the water. There are rocks down the side of the cliff. The water is a flat surface. Sure, the tide's coming in and it's washing up the shoreline. But that doesn't mean it's flat. That doesn't mean it's soft. But you seem to have let your body fall and roll. So as you hit the water, it's your head and your shoulder on an angle that seems to cut into the water, much like that knife did into your neck. And as you hit the water, you only take 1 point of damage, but you are thrust almost to the bottom. You almost feel the ground beneath you. In fact, one of your heels clips the sand beneath you. Any deeper, any faster, you would have hit the sea line flat. Or you would have sunk right down to the bottom and hit it, possibly with your head. But you seem to have found this negative space in the middle of which you now float in. But you're alive.
Just barely. 4 out of 9 hit points.
Barely.
The cold is closing in.
Burrows, what do you do in this moment? You still have some level of consciousness. It hasn't escaped you yet, but you are wounded, you are bleeding, you are freezing, you are hurt. What do you do?
Well, his only thought is to escape the cold he's suddenly been plunged into. So as he feels his foot rebound off the sand, he's going to kick upwards as hard as he can and try to break the surface.
Can you give me a swim roll, Mr. Burrows?
Oh, absolutely. Everyone always has so many points in swim. I'm rocking a base 20 here. Oh my word. That is a 51. Now, I could spend 31 points of luck.
It's not something I will offer, shall we say, one way or the other.
I think that's perfectly understandable, Keeper. I think when you have been thrown off a cliff into the sea, that's the time to swim at any cost. So I'm going to do it. That is 31 points coming off the luck total. We are down to 35 points of luck, but he does succeed in swimming.
And you're swimming. Obviously, you have the cliff on one side of you. On the other side, you can see. And as you're swimming now and you feel, even though one arm, one shoulder is aching, it's painful, it's shooting sharp into your shoulder, into your neck, where the wound is. But you're still managing to push yourself. You're still managing to swim. Burrows, where do you swim to?
As his head breaks through the waves and he's just gasping and choking and frantically scanning side to side in the night, can he see the cliffs baiting anywhere? Is there any sort of bay within sight, or any cliff, or even just the tiniest of sort of any amount of flatness where he could get out of the water?
Burrows, you can see that behind you are the cliffs that you've fallen from. There does not seem to be any respite there. Harsh rocks at the bottom that you narrowly avoided. Surely, if you went towards those rocks, you would be dashed upon them. But looking out, away from the rocks, to the south, you can see the wider ocean with the tide rolling in. To the north, you can see the Kingscombe Bay, the beach, where once you carried the Pall Mall bags. There seems to be the tide pushing in that direction. So if you were to swim in that direction, I'd offer you a bonus die.
Well, I will gratefully accept it, because one thing Burrows is not going to do is he's not going to strike out for the open ocean against the tide.
So you've surfaced, you've swum to the surface, you've appeared. Just before those luck points are spent there, Mr. Burrows, just give it one more roll with swim with a bonus die. If you're going
gladly.
with the tide, let's see if this has any ability to drag you in. If not, then those luck points will be needed to maintain your head above water.
Oh, a second chance. Let's see if I can avoid spending 31 luck. Here
As
goes
much as
nothing.
I want those luck points.
No such luck, even with a bonus die. That is a 41 and a 71, both tragically far over 20.
I'm afraid those luck points will be going on my trophy shelf, much like all of the other luck points and animal heads.
Enjoy them. Take some more of my hit points as well, why don't you?
Well, you say that. Funny you should say that.
Next, sharks.
You swim in the water, and this is painful. Your arm is aching. Tell me, actually, Burrows, how does Burrows feel? He's fallen from great height. He's had a knife in the collarbone and his neck. He's slammed into, well, he's pushed into the water, nearly slammed into the bed there. He's resurfaced and he's now swimming. What state is he in?
Absolutely frantic. So not only is he in tremendous physical pain from the wound to his neck, from falling such a distance into the water, from the sudden shock of the cold and his sodden clothes trying to drag him under, his numb shoulder, but he has got the red eyes of Jenkins absolutely seared in his mind, and they're flashing in and out with the image of that horrible, stretched, fishy skull on the beach and the creature he saw in the spa room, and all he can think is that the water is deep and it is dark, and there are things down there, things that might have red eyes and scales and who knows what, and he has to get out of the water.
Can you give me a spot hidden, please, Mr. Burrows?
Oh no. That's a 73. Mr. Burrows' spot hidden is 40.
Then there's a number of things you don't see, Mr. Burrows, as you continue to thrust your arms into the water, push with your legs, driving yourself with each set of 3 waves rolling over you, with you, under you, driving you ever closer to the Kingscombe Bay, the beach that you've been on, safety, land, a chance to rest, perhaps a chance to get help from one of the townspeople. You notice that the tide rolling into the beach almost rolls to a point. It doesn't just hit the beach and wash out as it should. It almost rolls into an area and then washes out over the beach. Burrows, I'm going to give you an opportunity here for another swim roll, but you need to tell me what you want to do. Do you want to go with the tide as to where it seems to be taking you, or do you want to strike out for the beach itself?
I suppose, looking at where the tide seems to be directing itself, are we talking about some sort of inlet, or is it washing over an object, or is it just a point on the beach that it seems to be heading towards?
With your spot hidden roll, I would say that what you're able to decipher isn't that it's just moving towards the beach. You can see that. Obviously, the tide is coming in and it's moving up the beach. But what you're seeing is that there seems to be a point, almost exactly where you were playing Pall Mall, where the tide seems to be washing up, and elsewhere it seems to be almost hitting a bank, and then the waves come up over the shoreline and wash up the beach. But there's one central point which a large quantity of the water seems to disappear into.
I am so curious about that. I'm so curious about it. I'm going for it. Yep, let's go.
Then all you need do is continue to push yourself gently in the water, let the tide take you to where it goes.
That's all he has the strength for.
I'm going to ask for a strength roll, Burrows.
Oh dear, I wish I hadn't said anything. Keen listeners may remember me mentioning that Mr. Burrows' strength is a whopping 30. Oh my goodness, the gods are with us tonight. That is a mere 24 under 30.
And we thought we'd be signing Burrows off to his unfortunate fate this evening, it appears.
Oh, he has strength in him yet.
Burrows has a little something in store for us. You thrust your arms, Burrows, you push your legs, you go with the tide, you're working with the tide, and you end up finding this, within this larger inlet, within this larger Kingscombe Bay, the beach area, you find yourself heading towards this area where the water seems to drop and disappear. And you go with it, you give it everything, you dive down, and as you do, you push. You're underwater, and you find that where the beach is, where you feel like you would have slapped into the side of the sand underwater as the tide has rolled in, what you've actually done is gone through something almost circular in shape, almost like a tunnel. And you're being pushed through this tunnel now. The tide behind you, there's no chance of going back on this. You're underwater, you're in this tunnel, and you're being pushed. The tunnel has a slight drop, and then it flattens out. And then there's a slight incline. Burrows, can you give me a constitution roll?
Oh, yes, absolutely. 35 constitution, let's go.
With your wound, with the temperature in the water, this is extremely hard for you.
Are you giving me a penalty, die keeper?
No, I am...
Oh, thank goodness. I thought that was what you were winding up for. Oh my... What are the odds? I've just rolled a 24 again. These dice are blessed.
And I always heard that the odds were never in your favour. How wrong was I?
I don't know what's happening.
You managed to maintain a sense of consciousness here. The cold seeping in, you feel it in your spine, in your muscles. Everything is aching. Everything is tightening. You've been in this freezing cold water. You've lost blood. You're moving. It's one of your arms is starting. Your left arm is starting to move less than your right arm, and you're pulling yourself through. Anything to get away from that red-eyed vision. Anything to get away from him realizing that you are still alive. He thinks you're dead. They all think you're dead. Well, they will. Burrows, this tube that you're in continues up, and you realize that the water doesn't go all the way up, and your head surfaces, and you're able to take a breath, and you can see that this tube, only 5 foot above where you are, almost reaches a lip and then continues flat. Outside of this tube, and I call it a tube now, Burrows, because you can see around you that this is glass. You are in a glass tube under the beach, which leads further inland. What do you do, Burrows?
Oh my goodness. So, am I understanding correctly that I'd have to haul myself up sort of 5 feet of glass tube to get properly out of the water and onto a flat?
Absolutely, but the tide is behind you and it is pushing you, so if you were to time it right, you'd be able to reach up onto the lip and pull yourself up.
That's what I attempt then, like a bedraggled, spindly sea lion. I'm going to time it just right and do one big kick.
So I'm going to ask you then for one of 3 rolls, and I'm going to allow you to decide which one is the one that you do. The first roll would be climb, And that roll would just stay as it is stated, because essentially you're in a glass tube. The second roll would be strength, because if you were to time it right, reaching up, it's then the water's pushing you up. It's just putting your arms above your head and pulling yourself up. And the final roll that I would offer you is dexterity, because of the nature in being quick enough to move when the water is in the right place to reach up and pull yourself to safety.
I like that. I like that very much. Let's go with dexterity, because one of his arms is failing him. He's feeling the strength draining out of him, so it's going to be all in the timing. And he has a dexterity of 40. But that is a roll of 98. Yes, I have fumbled my dexterity in this pipe.
Is beautiful. Just as I'd said only moments ago, we thought we were sealing Burrows' fate, but how little did I know that that card may still be on the table. Burrows, how do you fumble this? You're in this glass tube filling with water. What is it you do to fumble this?
I can only imagine that his head's only just broken the surface. He's still absolutely pumping with adrenaline, frantic with fear. And he breathes for a moment and he tries to time it. He feels the waves rhythmically buoying him up, even as they fill the pipe and, spell his doom if he waits around. So he's, yes, okay, 1, 2, yes, and he's sure, and he goes for it, but he times it just wrong, and he doesn't expect the slickness of the glass surface, and he just slides down it with his fingers splayed, unable to get a purchase.
And with that, Burrows, you slip down, you slide down. Your feet go from beneath you. It's your head that slams into the side of the tube. You feel your right eyebrow almost split, and your right eye begins to blur with darkness as you kind of blink the blood out or into your eye. Burrows, you lose a hit point.
Ouch.
Which I believe, having lost these amount of hit points, puts you past half of your hit points. Is that correct?
I am down to 3 out of 9.
With the cold water surrounding you, with your head and your eye bleeding, your neck still trickling blood, even though the blood seems to have slowed somewhat, even though you've been swimming ferociously to save yourself, to get yourself here. But the coldness is limiting what your body's able to do. I'm going to ask you for another constitution roll, please, Burrows. I'd like to see if you're conscious.
Let's find out. How long can he hold on? Oh no, that is a 72 over 35.
Burrows, you fall into a state of unconsciousness as this blood falls into your eye. You feel your head swimming. You feel yourself bobbing in the water. But with each push of the tide that comes in, you can see that ridge as your eyes begin to open and close heavily, slowly. That ridge is getting closer to you, or you're getting closer to it. And then your eyes close, heavy lids, almost like someone's closing a metal door and you can't open it. But you manage to force one open. You feel your body slamming into another part of the tube, a different part, a horizontal part. The water's pushed you up. You're now lying in the tube, but the water is still rising around you. Burrows, I'm going to ask you to give me a spot hidden in this final moment of consciousness.
Gosh. Through one unbloodied eye, as he struggles to remain conscious, let's see what he sees. 31 under 40, regular success.
Burrows, there are 3 things that you see. The first is your tube seems to be directly in front of you, connected to a bigger bowl, a viewing glass. You seem to be in a tube where water is filling. The one in front of you seems to be full of water. But what you see in there, Burrows, is a huge red orb and it seems to be pulsing. It seems to be stretching. You seem to see something inside stretching, pulling, pushing, almost quite frantically. The second thing you see, over to your left, is another separate, still interconnected, but separate bowl, an aquarium, for lack of a better word. And as you look across, your eye blinking blood in and out of it, you see the top has been opened, and crawling from it are more of those hideous, scaled creatures, like the one you saw at the Kingscombe Spa. Metal rods poking out of an incised area of their head and skull. They seem to be moving in unison. They seem to be moving in uniform down one of the... Is that a corridor? Is that a path out of here? And then, on the side of the tube next to you, Burrows, you hear a knock and you turn, and you see a familiar face. It's Mr. Kinnersley from the Kingscombe Spa. Hello, Mr. Burrows. I didn't expect to see you in here, you naughty so-and-so. Well, we can't have you clogging up the tubes now, can we? And in that moment, Burrows, your eye closes, and you once again find yourself in a cold, lonely darkness. The Rabbit's Ball is in motion. There's dancing, there's drinking, there's conversations, people discussing potential rumours, gossip, talking about dresses, talking about the heights of the evening. Miss Anastasia, you find yourself on the dance floor with Tobias Hawthorne. And I imagine you have things to talk about.
We do. That
But
was
those things will have to wait until you've made a dance roll.
Oh well. I've been preparing for this my whole life. Oh no. That is a 93 over 57 because Anastasia is a very good dancer, but for some reason she's feeling nervous.
You have
Aww.
never been more lucky in your life because Tobias Hawthorne, Tobias V, has rolled an extreme success.
So he's gonna save me.
I think what we see is, in fact, you tell me, what is it that you're doing in the dance that starts to go wrong, that is a significant failure?
Anastasia is a very good dancer. She has a 57 after all, but she's not used to dancing and holding conversation at least conversation she cares about. She can't both focus on dancing and also notice all the expressions on Tobias's face and concentrate on all the really important things that are happening. She's gone through a lot. So she starts mixing up the steps by skipping the beats, because there's a beat of her heart, there's the beat of all the thoughts rushing through her head. There's just too many beats. But thankfully, Tobias takes the lead and kind of holds her closer and kind of directs her in a more active way, like a good dancing leader.
He does exactly that. He holds your hand, he sees the steps are falling out of place, he pulls you in close, and as you dance around and you're able to have that conversation, because he has rescued you from this moment, we can only presume that any onlookers see you two dancing rather intimately, I think it would be fair to say. As the conversation transpires, as you move around that dance floor, you might see out the corner of your eye a few heads flick, a few whispers happen. But Anastasia, what is it that you and Tobias talk about?
Anastasia, God, I don't even know what my name is anymore. Anastasia would like to check in with him about the dreams, as in a not being overhead kind of way, if at all possible. If we feel like other people could hear us, then we probably wouldn't be talking about as.
I feel with the movement and circling around the dance floor, with the rest of the dancers moving as well, the music is playing. This is a private conversation you're able to have. Probably one of the most private conversations you're able to have in a public space.
Were you there, Tobias, in the dream? Was that you?
Yes. I saw you and the stone, the chair, the throne was there.
The throne? In the sea?
Yes. We were underwater, but you could see it too.
You were trying to get me to go in. Why?
No.
We were going to drown.
No.
I don't understand what you're trying to do. I trust you, but...
Anastasia, no. You were trying to get me to sit in the throne.
What? I don't recall that.
The last thing I would ever do is call you accuse you of mistelling a situation. Anastasia, hopefully you know that that's not how I think of you, but from what I saw, we were there, we were underwater, we didn't need to breathe, we just were. We were there. And I offered you the chair. But you kept insisting that I sit in it. And I kept insisting that you sit in it.
Keeper, does this match my recollection?
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. I thought so. I'm not going to try and roll a psychology because what's the point? Anastasia can't do that. It's not in her skill set. So it's just going to be very confused. I must be misremembering.
No, perhaps I am. I just remember an urge, a desire almost to see you sitting in that chair. It felt like you belonged there.
It scares me, Tobias. It all feels like it's not in our control. Like something else is urging us to make these decisions and choices and movements as if we're barely participating in them. She said as she's being pushed around the dance floor.
Dreams are creations of our own, but also of others here, especially here in Kingscombe.
There are other people in the dreams?
And they carry meanings beyond what we see at face value. Often the dreams you have here, they mean something beyond the literal.
Tell me, you never explained. You never explained about your family wanting me dead.
It's not that they want you dead, Anastasia. It's that they need your sacrifice. On that note, you spin across the dance floor to the good Reverend George Prideaux, who is dancing with Lady Louisa Dunn, the hostess of this entire evening. Reverend, a dance roll, please.
Don't interrupt me, I'm counting. That is a massive failure, 74 versus 9. May I roll that bonus dice?
You can, for your social situation and your reputational
Thank
standing.
you very much. Let me just see if it actually works. That takes it down to a 34. So still, he's really isn't a dancer, and the lady was very gracious. But yes, no, he is very much counting and counting and counting and, yes, not making it work.
As you're clearly counting and sometimes even mouthing the numbers themselves as you're counting your steps around the dance floor, you see that Lady Dunn is skilled enough as a dancer that she is leading, but she's making it look like you are leading. So she is leading you around this dance floor, Reverend, but she is making everybody see that you are in charge of this. And even though you're counting, because of the ease of which she is navigating you around these other couples, and occasionally you see a glimpse of Tobias and Anastasia, and then you see glimpses of lots of other people from the Kingscombe High Society, the Ton themselves, what is it that you do or discuss here? You have a private opportunity, a private moment with Lady Dunn, Lord Dunn's wife.
Well, the Reverend is contemplating how much of a risk he can take here. He's wanting to get across to Lady Dunn how wonderful a host she is, how he can see that she looks after Lord Dunn very, very much, and quite wonders how the two, Lord Dunn and Lord Hawthorne, managed to meet. It must have been quite a meeting, and indeed, how did Lady Dunn meet Lord Dunn? Just kind of gossipy, kind of trying to get some sort of history, contemplating, all that sort of...
Okay, she's enjoying the dance. She's enjoying dancing around with you. She kind of, my husband first met Lord Hawthorne, because, they grew up in the area together, but they weren't exactly, as you would say, close by any stretch of the imagination when they were younger. In fact, I have to say, and this, Reverend, is between you and I hope you won't go around gossiping about this, but...
I'm a Reverend, of course.
Well, I figured if anybody could keep a secret, it could be you. But Lord Hawthorne, and I know this goes very much against the nature of the man that everybody sees, but do you know, he used to be a bit of a bully to my dear Jonathan. Oh, terribly.
Really?
He used to manipulate him and talk him into things. I know now that everybody sees dear Elias Hawthorne, and they see this father figure that everybody wishes they just have a jolly good handshake from, because he's such a benefactor to everybody here in Kingscombe. But I can tell you, he wasn't always that way. He was a bully, and it took some time for Jonathan to rise up to a station where him and Lord Matthew as well, may he rest in peace, Reverend, and obviously Elias, and the three of them. It took some time before they saw each other on equal terms.
Well, I'm very glad they are managing to do that now, because your husband's a bright spark. Take Miss Lambert. We've tried to fit her into the family as best as we can, and well, all we ever seem to do is push her away somehow. And a few days with you, and goodness me, she looks like a changed person. What is his secret? Your hospitality here must be amazing.
Well, we don't like to brag, Reverend, but when we have someone staying at the house, we do like to treat them like family. Now, would you like to know another little secret?
Oh gosh, I feel I must share some secrets with you, with all the things you are telling me.
Oh, please do. I love secrets. I love them. But just before you do, Reverend, and please don't mention anything to Miss Lambert yet, because I think that my husband has a little surprise for her.
Oh.
But Miss Lambert, down the line, would you believe it? Her mother's mother was once married to a Dunn.
But
Yes.
that would make her a...
Yes.
Her a...
I know, isn't it
Goodness
wonderful?
me.
And this is why
astonishing.
we haven't wanted to shock her quite yet, but what we wanted to do is make sure that she's in the house and she's comfortable and that she is in lovely company. And my dear Emily, she's been so hard at her studies, but all she's wanted to do is spend time with her, I suppose behind closed doors we've gone to calling her our little cousin, but she is not really Lambert, not if you discount that poor little puff of a French thing that happened with her. Obviously that's not something we talk about here. But, Reverend, she has more done in her than she knows.
Goodness me. I can see now. Again, you mustn't repeat this at all. I can see why my young Master Thomas is rather fetched with her. I mean, you just imagine if Master Thomas were to marry Miss Lambert, Miss Dunn, and Miss Anastasia were to marry Master Tobias. What a great family occasion that would be. It would cement the future of Kingscombe.
Oh, well, funny you should say cementing the future of Kingscombe, Reverend. Tonight. Oh, I don't want to spoil the surprise, but tonight, I think you'll find that we are going to cement the future of Kingscombe.
Oh, goodness me. I knew this trip was going to be worth it. I didn't expect it to be here at this ball. You are quite the marvel, Mr. Lady Dunn.
I must stop speaking. Jonathan will be so infuriated with me if I keep telling you all his secrets. He'll have nothing left to divulge himself.
I shall have a complete look of shock on my face when everything happens, rest assured.
I'm sure you will. We're going to quickly go over to Thomas Prideaux. Thomas, you said you were navigating around the ballroom, having just had a, shall we say, interesting, job opportunity from Lord Cosgrove?
I mean, if you can call this a job opportunity, I don't think I had much opportunity to decline his offer. But yes, Thomas is going to be moving around the ballroom hastily, as much as his weakened state from withdrawal of red jelly allows him, to try and find somebody who is better at losing money than he is at cards. And I think the first port of call will be, does Thomas recognise the reputations of anybody in the ballroom in that regard?
Oh, that's a good question. What kind of a role do you think you'd like to give for that then, Thomas?
I think we could toss up with a no roll because he knows people.
Yeah.
We could toss up with a gaming roll. Has he played them or can he tell them their tells? Or you could have a look at maybe a reputation roll to see whether he knows their reputations.
So I think each one of those potentially would give you a slightly different answer. A no roll in terms of their reputation, a gaming roll in terms of have you actually rolled dice or played cards with them, and a, what was the other one, sorry? A reputation roll. A reputation roll to see, as we say, literally, do you know the reputation of the individual?
I'm going to... I've not rolled gaming enough in this game, so let's roll gaming. That is an 82 over 60. That is a failure, but can I push it with a reputation roll? I can't tell anyone's tells. I don't recognise anyone from playing the cards, but maybe if I wander up to people a little closer.
If you push it, I'm going to ask for another gaming roll.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Rather than changing rolls, if you push it, I'm going to ask for another gaming roll, and because you are scanning the high societal gathering here at the Rabbit's Ball to see if you remember having played any particular gambling game with any of these people, the consequence, if you fail this roll, Thomas, will be reputational.
That's fine. Let's give it a go. That is an 89 over 60. Even worse. Fantastic. Yeah.
Okay, Thomas. I'd like to have some verbal, almost verbal diarrhea from you where you're talking about gambling and you're trying to look at people around you and work out if you remember having played with them. So could you just give us a snippet of what that might be and what people around you might hear you saying to recognise and go, my word, did you hear Thomas Prideaux talking about gambling?
So Thomas is scanning the room and he spots somebody. Over in the orchestra. That's Dallyworth. Dallyworth playing the violin. I'm sure he's a violin player. Must be. I recognise him from London. I'll run over to the Dallyworth. Dallywilder chap. Dallyworth. Don't ignore me, old chap. You like a bit of a flutter on the cards, don't you? I know your type. Okay, come and have a game of dice. And the man turns around and it's not Dallyworth. Absolutely not. And Thomas is here shouting at a random man, never seen before in his life, insinuating that he is a gambler.
Could I ask you to give me a 1d6, please, Thomas?
Yeah, go on then. That's a 6.
That is a 6 in your reputational loss.
Oh dear.
Wow. Literally, there is a surrounding around you where people. Oh, did you see? He's asking talking about games, gambling. That's not even Dallyworth. Dallyworth's blonde. And there's this echo, this waterfall of language all around you, Thomas. And you realise what's worse is that you can't ignore it. That you're standing there and everybody around you almost societally, metaphorically takes a step back from you as you do this and you make this horrific blunder, societal blunder in front of everybody. But not everybody, because there's a hand on your shoulder, Thomas, and you know that there's at least one person in this world that you have not alienated by your gaming talk. But you feel that hand begin to tighten. And then you feel someone crouch down to your head, because they're clearly a lot bigger than you. And you recognise this man from your time in London. This is Cosgrove's man. This is Johnson. And Johnson just leans in and says, Mr. Prideaux, we're going to need to get you finding someone quickly. We don't want to keep Lord Cosgrove waiting, do we?
Of course not. No. And Johnson, I know exactly the man. He
squeezes your shoulder again and just says, I'm not interested in who the man is. Get him to Cosgrove now.
Okay, I'll do that, and I'll try and squeeze away from Johnson.
He lets your shoulder go and he puts his arms behind his back. And as much as everybody was reputationally stunned by what you said, they're also very curious as to seeing you socialize with this individual who looks like he's wearing a suit that is 3 times smaller than it should be, as he stands towering over you and over most people at the ball. And he smiles. And that's when everybody sees that one of his front teeth are missing.
I mean, reputationally hanging around with being seen with a man like that, it's all downhill from here. I think Thomas is going to head out towards maybe the veranda, see whether there are some men or women who aren't dancing, who have not witnessed the scene that has just been, just went down in the ballroom. See what luck I have outside, eh?
Excellent. Well, I'm going to ask you for a spot hidden, but before I come to you to find out that spot hidden, I'd like to go over to Ms. Charlotte Lambert. Miss Lambert, you are you still observing the dance floor? Have you moved down? I believe a certain gentleman, a Mr. Alexander Gatson, came and asked you for a dance, but was slightly put off. You can now see that your husband, Monsieur Phillipe Lambert, seems to be dancing on the dance floor on his own, just twirling around in between spaces, bobbing and weaving. He seems to be having a fantastic time. Miss Lambert, you have a moment to yourself. What are you doing?
Charlotte is watching the dancing and kind of wishing she was out there with them. I think she feels kind of wistful and almost maybe a bit melancholy, really. She's remembering the balls that Phillipe used to take her to in France, and of course they were nothing like this, nowhere near as high class. They were all very sort of bohemian and maybe a little bit rough around the edges, but she was happy. But she's happy now as well. She's had such a wonderful time in Dunn Manor the last couple of days, and she just wonders, is there a way to marry those two worlds, those two memories of being with Phillipe and also being here in the manor? And she knows if she goes out there onto the dance floor with Phillipe, that's not something which is expected, because nobody else can see him. And people don't like the unexpected in this world. Maybe if she'd have done that back in Paris, people would have been amused and charmed and thought, oh yes, it's a little bit eccentric and a bit free and wild, and she's being true to her own heart, the way that somebody should be. But this is not that world. So she's torn.
As you have that incredibly personal reflection, looking out at the dance floor, seeing your beloved, your dead beloved, dance, mingle, having the time of his death as he waltzes around that dance floor, there's a tap on your shoulder. And you turn round and you see a beautiful young lady, younger than yourself, but wearing exactly the same dress, with exactly the same mask. Oh, Miss Lambert, she lifts her mask up on her head. It's me, Emily.
Miss Dunn. Oh, I'm so glad to finally get to see you. It's so wonderful.
I'm
beautiful
glad.
ball.
It's beautiful. I'm so sorry I haven't been to you sooner, but Mother said that I needed to give you space and that you needed to rest and you needed to get better, but all I've wanted to do is to come and see you and speak to you, and I'm so glad that you're here. It makes everything better. The more of us that are here, it's so good. It's so good. Please, Charlotte, may I call you Charlotte?
Oh, of course, please.
And you
do.
must call me Emily. You must call me Emily.
Emily. Thank you. That is very kind of you.
Please, come with me. And she takes your hand, Charlotte, and she runs you and her down through the observation, down the stairs, out into the observing floor, and she pulls you onto the dance floor. You and her, dancing together. The same dress, the same mask. You're on the dance floor, you have an opportunity to talk. You've joined this song about halfway through? No, more, probably 2/3 of the way through. Is there anything you'd like to say to Emily as you dance around this space?
Charlotte still doesn't know exactly what's going on. She doesn't quite understand why she's been taken into the heart of this family so quickly and so easily, in a way that perhaps she doesn't feel that she was with the Prideaux. And she's also remembering that last dream where she looked up into the stars and the stars told her that she was Dunn, a Dunn. Maybe part of the Dunn family? She doesn't know. So I think she's going to ask Emily a little bit about her family and how they've lived in Kingscombe, how long they've been here, and what Emily knows of her past. And she's just going to try and sound her out a bit. Is there anything that can explain this mystery to her of why she was called a Dunn?
Oh, we've been here for so long. The Dunns are here. They're one of the foundations of the town. There's the Hawthornes, there's the Dunns and the Prideaux, and there's always been the three ruling families, and we've always kind of kept to Kingscombe because it's been our area. I say our, it's not really me. I mean, it's my father and such. But yeah, we've had families and generations and generations and generations of each of our families have gone through, given everything that they can to the families in return, and we're here, and you're here, and I bet you didn't know this, Charlotte.
What is it, Emily?
You know we're related, don't you?
Related?
Yes,
How?
we're family.
How? That's not possible. I'm...
Oh, I heard Father
cousin of-
talking. It was something silly about your mother's mother or something like that. She married someone and then but she'd actually already had a marriage before that. I don't know. I couldn't quite work out what they were saying, and I don't care about the scandal. It's absolutely nonsense. But but you are Dunn. You're one of us. You're family, and you're here.
One of you?
And I've always wanted a sister.
Oh, Emily.
Charlotte.
Emily, it makes sense. It all makes sense. Oh, thank you, Emily. I can't tell you what this means to me.
I can tell you, Charlotte, that you're here and you're willing to share in this family. It means more to me than you'll ever know. And she almost stops the dance and just gives you a hug. But people can see that this is so incredibly sincere, that this is so delightful and lovely, and it's heartwarming for everybody that's either dancing around you because you've become an obstacle on the dance floor, or for those from the observing floor or the balcony. Everyone can see. And when I say everyone can see, Lady Hawthorne on the balcony, Lord Dunn and Lord Hawthorne beside you. Any commentary, Lady Hawthorne? You seem to be seeing a fair whack of everything that's going on up on the balcony.
I do, don't I? Well, obviously, Lord Dunn, I'm going to gently put my hand on his arm. Well, Jonathan, it would appear that your announcement for later may have been revealed. I do believe your beautiful daughter Emily may have got slightly carried away with the excitement of the evening.
Oh, yes, well, better her than me. All the words and the explanations and things. Absolute headache, if you ask me.
Well, I've left a little something out for you on the veranda. You know where to look. We'll
right.
just, it'll bolster your confidence. For the public speaking and the rest of this evening's festivities. I'm sure it will do you the world of good.
Yes, right. Better get that now and bring it to the dance floor. Shan't be spanner in the works and that. Right. Lady Hawthorne, much obliged. Lord Hawthorne, one moment.
And Lord Dunn makes his way off to the veranda to find the item that you have left for him. So, Lady Hawthorne, you are standing there. Lord Hawthorne is standing next to you, overseeing the dance before you.
My dear Lady Hawthorne, I think it's time we started to bring proceedings together. I'm of a mind to ask you to start reading our little... Toast? Ha! I like the way you put that, my dear. I think it's time you start reading the toast.
Well, don't you think we should let the children dance a little longer first? I mean, look at Tobias and Miss Prideaux. They seem to be getting along famously.
And after we've given our little toast and we have engaged everybody in tonight's, revelations, if they're still holding hands, then I think, my dear, there's a relationship there worth hanging on to.
Yes, I'm sure you're right, my dear. Do you not want to wait for Jonathan?
Jonathan will be ready in due time. Don't worry about reading too loud, but I almost want you to just start reciting the words. Let's have them resonate around the room, join in the music, and seep into everybody's daydream, shall we?
Of course, my dear. If you're sure.
Very sure.
So Lady Hawthorne takes a deep breath, looks nervously at Lord Hawthorne and across at the dance floor, her eyes particularly resting for the moment on Tobias and Anastasia and Emily and Miss Lambert, and then she takes a deep breath, closes her eyes, seems to focus, and then starts reading. Quietly at first, but just slowly building in volume.
Glui a hog eye, shugok, glui a hog. Waking, glui slumber, slumber, glui waking. Lulun, rulu, ot megepa azanafel, ton. Kaf img on paradis, img gifts. Il kiarnak shalawons. Vult ma ditogiwa.
Thank you for joining us for Cult and Culpability. Remember, you can find us at www.miskatonicplayhouse.com, and you can also visit the main stage for other scenarios from the Miskatonic Playhouse with links in the show notes below. Please like and subscribe, and if you can spare a minute to leave a review, it makes a huge difference to other like-minded listeners who will be able to find and enjoy our work. Until next time, when the curtain rises again.